Hi, and welcome to Season 2 of Eating Enlightenment. I'm your host, Jared Levinson, former binge-eating wrestler turned Zen monk turned eating coaching counselor. Today we have a special guest, Dr. Joe Delaney. Dr. Joe Delaney's words of transformation are east-west, grounded, and heart-center. These words are going to help you learn the key principles to heal and stop emotional and binge eating, as well as transform your health and become empowered. I can't wait for you to see today's episode. Joe and I have a really special connection, and he has an incredible story of being a professor at a major London university and almost committing suicide because he was trapped in his head. And now he lives from his heart. It's a wonderful story. I can't wait for you to hear it. One last note, at eatingenlightenment.com, there's a free toolkit as well as a quiz so that you can know where you fall on the scale of emotional eating. That's at eatingenlightenment.com. Without further ado, let's get in and talk to Joe.
Yeah, let's talk about East versus West, or the combination of both, shall we?
Okay, sounds good. So you'll come up with like a few words and, like symbols and stuff, or that symbolize the East versus the West?
Yeah, I'll just talk about, there's a poem by Rudyard Kipling, and in it says, East is East and West is West, and never the twain shall meet. And that was the old-fashioned view, that they were completely separate. But I've, over the years, because of my health crises over the years, I had to look at alternative views. So I started to look at Easterner philosophies, and it's changed my view of medicine totally.
Do you mean like you were in the West with medicine and then you started going to the East?
Yeah, I was in the West. I was trying all the biomedical therapeutics, which didn't work for me. And then I got the idea really to look at alternatives and things that were out of the box really, as far as the biomedical model went. And it's changed my life. I went from intellect to working with intuition, and that's where you and I met, because this to me is all about letting go of what you know, right, from external sources, and finding out from internal sources what you need to do next, really.
Listening to your heart.
Yeah.
Listening to your body.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, the body is the source of ancient wisdom. And I think mindfulness and meditation can tap into unsuspected resources that most people have got no idea about, like I didn't until I got really well and had to look at alternative sources of information.
So you were not aware of this stuff, like the mindfulness, the heart, the body?
Didn't have a clue. Are we recording now already? Or
yeah.
Oh,
we'll
great.
Go with it. This is a great start to the conversation. I think I'll just run with it.
Oh, no, that's great, mate. So what happened with me is I became very, very ill. I was in a high-powered job in pathology, in biomedical sciences. My subject area was hematology, and I was researching into things like leukemia and blood transfusions, all sorts of those things, I was in what's called a multidisciplinary on-call situation, where I became fluent in microbiology, as I mentioned, hematology, biochemistry, histopathology, all the different disciplines to do with biomedical sciences. So if you like, I was basically just half a person. I was just listening to the biomedical model, and anything outside of that seemed like woo-woo to me, And in the end, because I was in this sort of high-powered position, if you like, I became more and more stressed. As the years went on, I became more and more anxious, nervous, irritable, discontented. And then I started to drink a lot and take all sorts of medications, both prescribed and not prescribed, to try and manage my symptoms. And the symptoms were, the symptoms, as you know, are the manifestation of things that go on underneath that, really. The root cause was I didn't have a clue about my body and its workings. I knew all the words, I knew all the theory. In fact, I was a lecturer in biomedical science at university, and quite well renowned. Although, and this is the irony of it, I knew a lot and didn't have a clue all at the same time.
What were you doing when you were not aware of your body? I'm sure you were trying to take care of yourself, like, I don't know, let's say running or I'm sure you were trying to do stuff, but it wasn't working.
Didn't do any of that, mate. All I knew was work, 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 make
Ah,
money, get more holidays, get more positions of power, all that nonsense, really. And I think most people, including what's going on at the moment, many, many more people now are reflecting much more deeply on what are the essentials of life now. And my essential for life is first and foremost, it's not relationships, it's basically my health must come first and foremost, because without health nothing else is relevant. Nothing works, you know. So when I say health and we talk about holistic, as far as I'm concerned, there are four components to health.
oh
There's
yeah.
physical, and that was the bit that I was concentrating on, emotional, mental, and then there's this whole spiritual component that I didn't have a clue about. Now, when I talk about spirituality, I'm not talking about religion. Religion can be part of that, but it isn't to me. What spirituality to me means is that there's a deeper part of me, call it my soul, if you like, or my heart, or my spirit, or call it what you like. I mean, I don't want to fall out over names, but I feel that there's a really, really deep part of me that's got much more information if I choose to tap into it and ask it for its help, if you like. I know that sounds a bit strange, but you know, that's where I'm up to basically.
How did you get in touch with this place? How did you start to tap into that?
I tried to kill myself, right? After years of stress, anxiety, depression, alcoholism, and basically trying to destroy myself and all the people around me because they were all worried. They cared about me. They tried every trick in the book to try and get me to change my behavior. But in the end, I just couldn't get out of it. I couldn't stop drinking, you know. And what happened to me was I became so ashamed of the way that I was living that I thought the world would be better off without me. And I made a couple of attempts, to be honest with you. Both were serious. But on the last one, I took a whole load of tablets, sleeping tablets, paracetamol, anything that I could find. And basically, I should be dead. And that's the truth of it. But something happened to me in that process. And I got a sense of, you're not ready to go yet, you know. And people can call that a spiritual realization or some sort of epiphany or something. You know, I don't get involved in labels. I just, something happened to me at the depth of, you like, of this dark night of the soul, where I got a sense of, right, turn round now, and we'll show you. When I say we, my soul, something, it's not like something spoke to me in another, it was such a powerful train of thought that it started to guide me into more healthy ways of living. Now, Jared, that was a long, long time ago, but my life transformed during that process. I ended up in a psychiatric department, and I'd been there before for about 8 weeks. I was in there for a long time, you know, and in that process, I realized that the life that I was living was everybody else's life and not my own life.
Uh, uh, uh.
And so what I've really learned is that most human beings are programmed or conditioned by external forces and ideas and social influences that don't generally correspond with who they are. And so from a very early age, most of us get kicked out of our natural inclinations and we get into this synthetic, unnatural, conditioned sort of lifestyle that corresponds with what external forces or an external moral code tells us to behave like. And I know now that that's probably the root cause of mankind's problems that we're facing at the moment, is nobody really knows who they are.
I
and
feel
I'm
you.
and I'm still only just learning about me myself, to be honest.
I love your humility about this. It's like we're all wearing masks, and the masks have become our faces, and that when we look at ourselves, we see the mask, and we don't even see what is deeper, what is what's underneath that. This
Yep.
powerful subconscious is guiding our actions, but we aren't connected to our subconscious, our soul, or whatever. I'm with you. I don't really care about the words as much, but yeah. So you're in the psychiatric ward and you're getting in touch with yourself, and you say you continued to have it guide you. How does how did it guide you? Was it a voice? Was it a feeling? Was it a practice?
It's a feeling, mate. I mean, I got such an overwhelming sense of being moved. And if you're a religious person, you can say moved by spirit or whatever, but it was almost as if another energy, right, started to take over and guide me like a navigation system, because I realized that I'd been sort of living on X. From that moment, I was reconnected with my intuition, and that's all I go with now. I listen to people. It's not that I don't listen to anybody. I listen to everything that everybody's got to say. And it's almost like I take all this information and I put it into my heart now, because I seem to have a connection between my left ear and my heart, like playing it by ear, if you like. And I listen in and I get a sense of, is this information useful to me or is it not? And I'll get a sense of, if it's open and flowing, then I'll pay attention to it. And if it feels obstructed, I'll put it on the back burner, because this information that's being given that's not for me now might be more relevant next week. So I don't disregard anything. And what I've learned is, and this is important for me, right? I've learned there's a complete difference between being broad-minded and open-minded, because I was a broad-minded person with lots of intellectual knowledge, and I knew a lot about a lot of stuff. But from an open-minded point of view, when anybody brought an idea into my psyche, if you like, that didn't correspond with the framework that I was living to, then I would reject it out of hand without giving it any fair trial.
And I imagine you had rejected these intuition Eastern concepts when you were at a lecturer before. Okay.
Absolutely. I mean, I wouldn't listen to it. It was woo-woo to me, And now I know that certain types of woo-woo work wonders for well-being, right, in the world. We should. Oh, we're already recording this. Maybe I'll trademark what I've just said then.
I like that.
So yeah, this stuff that I teach now, I teach now would be considered by some. Sorry, mate.
Yeah, it's funny that you're in London, right?
No, near Liverpool.
Liverpool.
Yeah,
I know we're across the coast.
That's why I talk like John Lennon.
Yeah, we have a little bit of lag, but I think we're still on the same page. What do you mean by intuition? I love that phrase, that image that you spoke of, the playing it by ear and then connected to your heart. It was like you were feeling whether the information either resonated with you, or you weren't thinking about the information, you were feeling the information.
Yeah, it's definitely about resonance and coherence. And before, I was so distracted and disconnected from my body and its sensations that all I was living really was a life from the head. And in Latin, the head is caput, capitis, the capital. So all my life was based on, if you like, at the root cause was capitalism. I didn't have a clue at all about a heart-centric life, right? And so maybe going through those years of illness was all part of some great big divine universal cosmic plan to get me to start looking inwards rather than looking outwards for the answers. And we spoke before, this is reflected in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, because Abraham Maslow, he was into human potential and human development. And he described these stages. He initially had 5 stages, but 10 years before he died, he introduced 2 more stages. And he talked about the 7 stages of human development towards self-actualization. And what I've done is, when I got to learn about Oriental philosophy, then they have something called the 7 chakras. And that's where my mind, my old biomedical mind, would go, what a load of nonsense. But I was sort of forced into being more open about it and looking deeper. And I know now from my heart and my soul that there is an energetic body that governs the manifestation of the physical body. And it's if we can put things right in the energy body, then manifestation of good health becomes we flow into better health. Then I don't know whether that makes sense, but what do
Let's
you
go
think?
through let's go through these chakras. You said something to me earlier before. I believe you said that the Maslow's hierarchy, uh, you know, paired with the chakras real nicely. And that was a concept I'd never heard of before, but I loved it.
Yeah, I've sort of not made this up myself, but sort of related it to
Can you,
these set.
yeah,
Yeah,
I'd love to hear that. Like, so let's just go through the chakras. Like, do you want to start with the bottom or top?
yeah. Start with the bottom. Go is a good place to start at the bottom, right? They work it. People who talk about chakras talk about the electromagnetic spectrum and frequencies of color. And so we got red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. What you would
Like a
see
rainbow.
in a rainbow, but the scientific aspects of it really. And those colors all represent light at varying frequencies. So at the bottom end, the root chakra, that would be associated with the color red. And the root chakra, I've started the mediator of these things is, right, the autonomic nervous system, right? And what I believe is if we use the autonomic nervous system as the sort of midpoint, it's the connection between the invisible energy body and the physical body, because each of the 7 chakras, in my understanding, corresponds to the 7 major endocrine glands. And
Interesting.
so the first form of development as the child or as we are developing, the first one that comes online are the adrenal glands. And that's associated with the fight or flight response. It's associated with the physical body. It's associated with our legs. Can we dig our feet in? Can we become grounded? And can we feel secure in our person? So that's all about physicality. And as we then, does that make sense?
It does, like getting into the body.
Into the body, and all those things associated with physical survival, if you like. So things like food. People who have food problems, if you go to an energy practitioner, they'll look at your groundedness first and foremost, because generally speaking, people who overeat tend not to be completely energetically grounded. So if you came to somebody like me, I would maybe give you some martial arts standing techniques that would open up your root chakra, and it's associated with your perineum. So that's that bit that's right at the root of your spine, and it almost like grounds your legs into Mother Earth. So,
interesting. And this is something someone practical can do at home, like they can stand like a horse leg stance, their feet shoulder width apart, knees bent, legs activated. Like that's something somebody can do to get grounded.
The stuff I teach is basically all physical, because my catchphrase, if you like, is for psychological problems is to hack physiology to change psychology. It's the complete opposite of what the Western world preaches. And they would say, think in a different way. If this happens, change your mode of thinking and put a positive thought in. I tried that for years and it nearly killed me, right? And I'm not knocking it. If it works for you, that's fine. But it didn't work for me. It was more physical stuff for me that changed my psychology. That's basically helped to save my life.
And so many people who are struggling with food are coming from a very similar background with you. Like, I mean, I don't know, half the people, 40%, 30%, a significant part of people who struggle with food are highly intelligent people that are up here in their head. They're competent, they're strong, but their body, they're not in touch with their body. And so I feel like this stuff that we're going to cover so far, it really freaking excites me, man.
Good.
I feel like someone could just, bend their legs and just feel their legs and get grounded. And that makes total sense to me too, about how the red frequency, the sexual energy, the fight or flight response, how that correlates between Maslow's hierarchy, which is like your base needs, as well as the frequency of the light, how I guess it's a slower frequency of light, or
Well, yeah, it's a long vibration, yeah, and
Long vibration,
yeah,
yeah.
and then a long wavelength, and as we ascend, if you like, or as we progress in
Yeah.
maturity. But most people, if you're not physically connected to Mother Earth, that starts the problem of emotional insecurity. Then and
Uh,
emotional insecurity, emotion means energy for movement. So it's really all about energy right from the start. We haven't got to sex yet. It's funny you should bring that in, but we haven't got there yet. That's
oh,
the
interesting.
that's the
That's the
next
next
stage.
one.
Yeah, yeah. Because what happens, if you like, this is Freudian as well, because the first phase, right, is the oral anal phase of Freud's work as well. So not only have we got um, Maslow here, we've also got people like Carl Rogers, and that's basically, he's my hero, Carl Rogers, because he was all about person-centered, not personality-centered. So
Mm,
to stay on the red one for now, it's
sure.
the adrenal glands. It's all to do with food. It's to do with fight or flight. It's to do with groundedness. It's to do with shelter. It's all to do with financial security to provide these things. So if you're
Yeah.
financially worried about things, like most everybody is, if you're worried that your house is going to be taken away, then you need to work more with your root chakra and become more grounded so that you can become more emotionally secure and clearer minded to make more pragmatic, practical decisions about the future. But most people go straight up into their head and try and work out all this stuff. And that's when fear comes in, panic comes in, anxiety comes in, overeating comes in, and all those other things come in.
I love how this gives people a clear point to start. Sometimes this whole journey of wellness and healing, it's like you hear about all these chakras and it's like, well, shit, which chakra do I start with? And I think like what you said right there is that you start with that root chakra. You start with
Yeah.
that groundedness, getting that groundedness, whether it's, standing in that leg pose or or other different ways of getting grounded.
Well, I found that running. You see, I run now not to get faster, just because, just to
Um,
become more grounded. And since I've become better, I mean, I didn't do running before I discovered all this. It was just that I thought, well, that
huh.
seems like a reasonable thing. So I've had to learn new sort of techniques that work for me. Now, maybe running won't work for your customers. They'll have to find something to do with grounding that works for them. It could be simply just kicking your legs swimming. It could be something like taking your shoes and socks off and going paddling in the sand, or just, anything. My philosophy is, it's not up to me to tell you, it's up to you to discover what works best for you, right?
Amen. 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 We started off the conversation talking about East and West. I feel like the West is, the doctor tells you, the diet tells you, the nutritionist tells you to do something and you follow. But this is an inner discovery. It is. And by the way, thank you so much for bringing up that running, the jogging thing. I really relate to you with that. Yeah, I haven't jogged in a few days for whatever reason. And hearing you say this just reminded me the reason I do jog is because it makes me feel good.
Yeah.
It makes me feel good, man. Like, and
That's simple,
so,
isn't it? It's simple, isn't it?
yeah.
Here's a bit of a clue. Keeping it simple is, do what makes you feel good and makes you feel vital and gives you joy. And when you find that, do more of it. And then you'll get a happier life. It's not hard, is it? But it's taken me such a long time to get out of the complexity of my head and get back
Mm-hmm.
to the simple basics of find your joy and do more of it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, should we talk about sex?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Rawr.
we move from the red now into orange. Okay, and this is associated with your gonads, and females have gonads as well as males. So these are to do with the sex hormones. It's the balance, if you like, between testosterone and estrogen. Now, all of us have a masculine and a feminine side to our nature, not male and female, masculine and feminine. And just to use an example, testosterone and estrogen are the hormones that are associated with these attributes, if you like. Now, if you tend to have more estrogen than testosterone, it will affect the way you store fat. It will affect the way you're sensitive emotionally and stuff like that. If you've got more testosterone, you'll build more muscle more quickly. It's associated with growth hormone. So there's all these things, and that's associated with your gonads. Now, if you're deficient or obstructed because you haven't got your root chakra right, then you can have all sorts of problems to do with emotional insecurity in intimate relationships. So this can lead to things like excessive jealousy. It can lead to relationships, insecurity in relationships, worried about whether your partner's going to leave you all the time, and therefore attempt to take prisoners. So there's all sorts of psychological counterparts to the biochemistry that's going on in your body.
Yeah, like the feminine can become too accentuated. It can be lost with balance, and same with the masculine. The masculine can become too rageful, or without the feminine balancing it.
It's all about balance, the balance that suits your particular, and I'm going to say soul's resonance, or your deepest resonance, or your
Mm,
purpose. Because I
mm,
honestly believe that each of us has a particular personal resonance that's associated with our reason for being,
mm.
and this is the purpose. And Maslow talks this, Carl Jung, another fantastic psychotherapist or psychologist, right? He talked about individual archetypes. Before I go any further, let me just mention Indian medicine, and that's called Ayurvedic medicine or Ayurveda, right? They've known about this stuff for 3,000 to 5,000 years because they practice meditation like the traditional Chinese people do. They practice meditation, and they could actually map the energy flow in the body, in the meridian system, and even finer in the capillary system of energy called the nadis. They've known about this, Jared, for a
Yeah,
lot longer than Western medicine has. Western medicine's got into it about 150 years ago when acupuncture became a medical thing. But when we're talking about medical acupuncture, the biochemists and the biomedical scientists, they'll be talking more about the effect of endorphin release. So they try and put it down into some sort of biochemical reason. But in actual fact, what acupuncture does is it releases blockages in the energetic system, which allows the blocked energy to come online and enhance the vitality of the human body. I didn't believe a single word of this, and I don't want your customers or your clients or your people or your
just
listeners.
community people. Yeah,
Yeah,
community
yeah,
people. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
I
just
don't know.
people. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't want your community people to believe a single word I'm saying here. But if they've tried,
I
if
love
they've,
this, what you're saying, man. Like, I love how you're saying, don't believe what I'm saying. I love that. I love
but
the
don't.
fact that you're a doctor, previous doctor in a previous reincarnation, how you have this background and you come from just the opposite side of the spectrum. And I feel like it's one of the reasons I got this Buddha statue behind me a long time ago. I read this quote by the Buddha, and it said, hey, I mean, I'll paraphrase it in my own language, but the Buddha, I imagined, was saying, hey, don't take my word on it. Like, figure it out for yourself. And here's what worked for me. And I think even on Buddha's deathbed, I believe, I could be miss saying this here, but his dying words were, you have this life right now. It's very precious. Be a light unto yourself. Like, you got to figure out the way for yourself. You got to study, you got to shine that light inward and be the light, shine it inwards, but also be the light. You have the light within you, and to be that.
I agree entirely. I'm not, as I say, a Buddhist, but their philosophies, some of the Buddhist traditions, I agree wholeheartedly with. And I don't think that we have to shine the light like you've just said. I think that we have to get out of the way, get our ego out of the way to allow the light that's already there to start shining through us. It almost radiates from the depth of our being. And that's what I think is we've enclosed and captured our being in this great big sort of cloud of crap, basically. Yeah, just
Yeah,
crap. And
yeah,
so once you can start cleaning your act up by letting go of all these ideas that don't work for you, the light of your soul will naturally come through and start to express itself. And
Yeah.
one of the
And
most
the West
important.
is on a big paradigm shift too, like acupuncture, hypnosis.
Yeah.
I mean, every single research center in the world right now is, or at least in the United States, is researching psilocybin, how psilocybin can be used in controlled settings to really activate people. Coming back to the chakras, if someone wanted to, get in touch with their sexual energy or to balance their sexual energy, how does someone kind of go from that root chakra up and up into the higher vibration, higher color?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. And I would say the first thing to do is mindful meditation and opening of the heart, because the heart is the midpoint of the 7 chakras. The heart is the governor vessel, if you like, that moderates and ameliorates these energies and balances it. So before you start messing about with the sexual side, right? If you've been sexually repressed, first of all, you need to open your heart and allow this energy that starts to come up. It needs to be moderated and softened, right, before you actually start to get it into your head. Because if you miss out the heart and you open up and you do spontaneous Kundalini awakenings and stuff like this, like Kundalini yoga, there's a great responsibility with Kundalini teachers to help people to open their hearts first. And there's a word of caution, because if the Kundalini energy spontaneously awakes, which it does with alcohol and some drugs, right, it will miss out your heart and go straight to your head, and it will turn you insane, right? So what I'm trying to say is, these are powerful things that we need to understand. And so I'm saying that you really need to work with an energy practitioner who's balanced and moderate, and because I'm not being funny. This is my personal experience. I've been to lessons and energy practitioners who basically, right, didn't have a clue. And because I didn't have a clue, I followed their teachings, and for a while it made me worse, you see. So there are responsibilities here to take your time, listen to your intuition, and almost ask your guidance from within to show you through your sensitivity whether this is correct for you or whether it isn't.
So what comes to mind, and I think you bring up a hugely valuable point that can kind of, be another guide point for other people is this heart meditation, this mindfulness of the heart. And we can explore what that means in a little bit more too. How does someone precisely do that? You said something though, that you had done some teachers, like, did you ever, I'm imagining you took like a Kundalini class and you had the energy to shoot up, and then you like went manic or something like that, or like how did you, what was your experience with
My
working with
experience was,
energy in a I don't know, without someone else guiding you properly?
yeah, well, that was part of the problem, is because I was brought up in a very strict Roman Catholic background. The mention of sex and anything like that was against the law. It was basically a sin, right? And so I was brought up in a very sexually repressive environment. So when I drank, I was temporarily disinhibited, and all this energy started to flood up, right? And it used to drive my behavior. And I would wake up the next morning when all the alcohol had gone down and think, what the hell's the matter with me? You see what I mean? So this is all about pressure and energy, because there may be some of you listeners, right, who haven't got problems here, and good luck to them. But most of us have had our sexual, powerful, creative energy basically repressed and misdirected, right, and told it was all bad, it was all wrong. It's not all bad, it's natural, and in its balanced state, it's perfectly normal and nothing wrong with it. But most people have got problems here. And I'm not suggesting, what I'm suggesting for is some people may be like, they can't get enough of it, you see, and that'll be causing them all sorts of social problems then, you see. So there's got to be a balance of instincts, because if you're after anything that moves, right, it's going to cause problems in society, right?
Yeah.
But if you find somebody that you feel attracted towards and you can't engage with it because you're repressed, right, then you might end up having to take drink and drugs to get the feeling, and it all becomes unnatural then, and drug and drink related, you see. So it's all connected, very complex, but dead simple.
So for the heart meditation, I love your advice too, of instead of just skipping to the sexual energy, you said the heart is this, it's almost like the heart is,
The regulator.
yeah.
It's the master vibration, the heart, and that's
Yeah.
why in some religions it would be associated with the Christ center, the
Huh.
balance center, I mean, and I like that, I mean, Christians could say that this is Christ and take all your problems to Christ. What they're meaning is put all your problems in your heart and allow the heart intelligence to prompt you about the actions to take next. I'm happy with that. If I was talking to some Christian person, I'd say, well, it could be the heart. Jesus was a representative. He was a balanced chap, I believe. If it's a Buddhist person, I'd say, well, the Buddha said, become aware of your breathing, because he realized that the way we breathe is intricately and intimately connected to the way the heart works. So, and that was Buddha's famous advice, is just become aware of your breathing, right?
Yeah.
And honestly,
and to layer on top of this too, because sometimes when people hear this, I've talked to some people, not everyone, but at least some people, I want to add on, like, with warmth, sort of. Sometimes when people hear just become aware of your breathing, it's almost like they're in an exam room, or lying under the doctor's table, and it can create stress. But I feel like this heart-centered breathing is like, become aware of your breathing, like, in a gentle way. Like, this heart resonance is so interesting. Like, what feels good? Can you become aware of your breathing in a resonant way, in a way that expands you?
well, I'm fortunate in that my PhD was all about something called heart rate variability biofeedback. And basically, there's pieces of equipment now where you can put it on your ear and you can actually see how your breathing affects the way your heart's working, right? And that's from an organization in the States called Heart Math. And I mean, before Heart Math, I was using EKGs to actually do this. But at the end of my research, I found a piece of equipment that was supplied by Heart Math that basically did the job that I was using thousands upon thousands of pounds worth of equipment for. They did it for a couple of $100, you know what I mean? So there's loads now, like these smart watches. I've got a watch on here, and it's taking my heart rate now, but it will also give me my heart rate variability indices as well, So there's loads and loads of different things coming up now.
Yeah, there was even, like, I think, a wearable, like, it was on your lung. It was like almost like a patch or something like that. And it kind of, so what's the gist of it? Like, I'm assuming if you're anxious, your heart beats fast, you breathe shallowly.
Yeah, exactly. And what it is if we perceive a threat, then we automatically go into fight or flight, automatically, because information's coming into our mind. We've processed it. We've come up with the idea it's threatening. And so immediately our heart rate goes up, our blood vessels constrict, our adrenal glands come on to produce epinephrine or adrenaline, right? And then we go into the defensive. We become tense, because we've just perceived the threat. And when people are in fear, even non-threatening things can be threatening, you see. So if you're not in tune with your body, right, then we're in chronic tension all the time. So to go back to what you were saying this is all to do again with the autonomic nervous system. Now, the autonomic nervous system, it's got two components. There's the sympathetic nervous system, which is an accelerator, and there's the parasympathetic, which is a brake. When people are in fight or flight, both the accelerator and the brake go on at the same time, and they start basically conflicting with one another. It's like driving a car with your brake full on. You burn the energy out foolishly, right? You burn the body out foolishly. Your heart burns out. Your blood vessels constrict. Your blood pressure goes high and stays high, and your adrenal glands are overworked and become fatigued. It's basically, how do you know when you're in this state? You just feel tense, irritable, discontented, and basically crap, right?
That's why people go to food, quite frankly.
Of course they do. And the thing about food is, and not a lot of people know this, food brings in the rest and relaxation phase And that's why people eat so much, because it brings in
Yes.
the
Yes.
parasympathetic nervous system.
Oh my God.
And the parasympathetic nervous system is related to something called the rest and digest response. So it's an unconscious way of trying to temporarily slow down the perception of threat that you're telling your body to go into fight or flight for.
It's almost like the heart, when we're attuned and connected to the heart kind of plays this role of slowing down, of resting, of reassuring, of calming, of kindness. And it's almost like when we're up here over the head and the stress just goes right down and messes with us, then the food kind of like mimics the heart chakra. Kind of like it kind of temporarily, it kind of, slows you down. I feel like it kind of plays the role of like the heart.
It does, and I think that that's associated with the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the
Yeah.
vagus nerve. And the vagus nerve in these Oriental traditions is to do with the feminine. So it will be a feminine, nurturing aspect. So you're quite right. There's a compassionate, nurturing view there that's trying to say, please take care of me. Please take care of me. Now, the thing is, if you don't understand this and you're driving yourself on while you're running with a sandwich in your hand, then there's going to be a conflict, isn't there? So when we eat, it's to mindfully eat, slowly bite, slowly chew, slowly digest, right? Sit away. And then after eating, people feel tired. They feel tired because the digestive process has just come in and it needs to digest. So if you're in a job where you've got half an hour for your lunch and you're driving yourself on, trying to force food down you, and then driving yourself on into activity, of course the body's going to suffer as a consequence of it. Of course it is.
Yeah. I just got this impression about how you're speaking about this, that like your struggle was the exact same struggle. I felt that so many people have been raised in this overly masculine culture that places no feminine energy in that nurturing. And so they just don't know, like, this subconscious part, the cultural part of them, this subconscious thing, it is so driven to just go, 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 go. Like that's all they know. And it's this connection to the feminine is missing. Is missing. And it's not there. And then we use substances basically to
And food is basically
food is a substance, like
it's a chemical substance, isn't it? And the thing about that is most people, especially if they're on a hard bench and they've got no money, they'll eat substances that are laden with toxic chemicals anyway. So there's all this stuff. Most people are overeating, not because they're hungry. They're eating food-like substances with a hunger-like urge, neither of which are true. It's not true food and it's not true hunger. It's all to do with stress and anxiety and depression. So
and the deeper thing too of that the masculine and the feminine, like if it's all masculine at this very primal level, it's going to be out of balance.
Of course, and I think if you're in any spiritual traditions, there's a great big wave of consciousness that's sweeping the planet now. And what they feel is that the old patriarchal, masculine dominated system is disintegrating as the sacred feminine returns to rebalance and to reinvigorate the world in a more balanced and healthy quality of life. And I believe that. I don't know what it exactly means, but this again is the yogic traditions have known that this happens. They will tell you that we're coming out of the age of Kali and destruction, and we're going back now into the golden age called Satya Yuga. You see, so all these wonderful ancient wisdoms, they've got this sorted. They know about it, right? They say, chill. This is all part of a cycle that's been going on for millennium, right? For loads and loads of years. Just chill. It's all part of the process. Now, for the Western mind to do that, because the Western mind wants to jump in, it wants to control, it wants to regulate and all that. That's a masculine dominated way of doing it. And that's why, in my opinion, I nearly did myself in, because I was driven to get more, to go higher, and all this nonsense. It was an absolute load of old nonsense.
I can already tell too that we're going to need to have another conversation. This is amazing stuff. Oh my God. We still have a few more minutes. We got another 17 minutes, but there's no way we can get through all the chakras in 17 minutes.
No. But let's do the next one.
Let's do the next one. Sure. And then, like, for listeners, we'll continue this conversation at some point. I just love so much, Joe, what you're saying. I really want to just cherish this conversation and share it with people. I just feel so connected to what you're saying.
Great. Well, I mean, I don't feel that there's coincidences anymore. The way we met was in a coincidental way. You know, we the first time we spoke, we just sort of resonated with one another. Let me just say something. There's a complete difference between intellect and intuition. You know, for me, intellect is based upon knowledge and memory. Intuition it doesn't work with memory. It comes direct from source, and it's pertinent to what needs to be done in that moment. This is called living in the now, if you like, or and here's a nice posh word for you. It gives us the ability to act extemporaneously. And what that means is we don't need to have a script to live, because we will be fed with the information of how to behave on a moment-to-moment basis, right? So you just turn up, you develop much more self-esteem, much more self-confidence and everything once you start to trust your real self. To thine own self be true. You know, and there's another phrase that my friend Todd Medina uses: the human is the hero. I think that we've become so automaton that we've forgotten just what a precious gift this human body is. It's the most complex piece of machinery in the universe, and most of us have got no idea whatsoever, right, on how it works. Yeah. Right, on to yellow now. Yellows, so we've done the adrenal glands, red. We've done the gonads and the sex glands, orange. Yellow is to do with the solar plexus. Solar means sun. It's the seat of personal power in Oriental philosophy. And if you haven't got the first two chakras right, then you have no personal power, and you're very much a victim to everything else. You can't really express yourself from the center of who you are. So it's associated with the pancreas. Now there we are, the pancreas, all to do with energy. So if you look at that middle band across the solar plexus, on the one side we've got
the liver. Your solar plexus is like right here, eh?
Yeah, it's right in the middle. It's sort of, well,
it's like, where your lungs. It's like right underneath your lungs, right? Like in the middle of your lungs. In the middle of your lungs come up in that point.
Yeah,
like the
so
bones.
There's your diaphragm. So I'd say
your diaphragm. Okay.
Probably a couple of fingers below there. You can get a sense of it if you just prod. You can almost get a sense. In an anatomical way, it's associated with the descending aorta, where it starts to bifurcate and branch down towards your legs and things. So it's that point. So let me just say this. We've got the liver, we've got the pancreas, we've got the gallbladder, we've got the stomach, and we've got the spleen. All those organs there are to do with energy, storage, and regulation. Okay. And that's where insulin works, obviously, in the pancreas. But with the insulin in the pancreas thing, right, again, the autonomic nervous system, it balances that out. There's also, we talk about insulin, but there's also in the pancreas, there's another hormone that's produced called glucagon, right? One stores energy and one releases energy because it works off the liver. So if that's imbalanced as well, right, then if we're in this defensive mode, then obviously we're going to store energy in the form of fat, because we keep sending signals to the body that we're in trouble here. We might need more energy for the future. See what I mean? So there's all these different things. So storing fat's not a problem if you're using it up on a daily basis. If you're mobilizing resources, storing fat's not a problem, because if you're utilizing them as they come in, there's still a flow of this fat, this dynamic process. However, if you're storing energy and you're not moving, then it starts to oxidize and it becomes much more of a problem then. So we get oxidation of the fats in the pancreas, and we start to get this problem with the islets of Langerhans not working properly, etc., etc., etc.
Yeah, and stress was so related to that. Stress was the message that we need to store fat to protect ourselves.
Yep. And so this is the thing, you see, and that's it's complicated, you see, because the autonomic nervous system, it's not a case of accelerator and brake. It's the interaction between those two components, the masculine and the feminine components. When they work in a mystical union of loveliness, right, they work in harmony with one another, right? If they're not paying attention to one another, then they'll work in opposition to one another, and that's called accentuated antagonism. And the way that works also will determine how we absorb food through the gut as well. And then we could talk at another time. We can talk about the microbiome, and we can talk about fermented foods, and we can talk about all that stuff. We'll have to have a 12-week show.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Okay, let's wrap up with, and we'll do a future episode at some point. Let's wrap up with how you mentioned this heart meditation.
Yeah.
You know, the mindfulness of the heart, and you mentioned the breathing. How do you do this in your daily life?
It's dead simple, mate. I get my hand and I tap my heart there like that, right? And that's like, and then I put my other hand on my heart. If I'm doing this with children, I'll pretend it's like a little angel or a bird.
Oh,
See,
I like it.
Looks like a dove, that, doesn't it?
I like it.
Okay, so I put this dove-like thing there, and I give it a bit of a press, and then very, very gently, both in and out through the nose, is I breathe in, 2, 3, 4, 5, stop. Out, 2, 3, 4, 5, stop. And I do that for 3 10-minute sessions a day, and it's changed my life completely, because what it's done is it's slowed my head down. It's brought me back in contact with my essential self and my intelligence, not my intellect, my intelligence. And this is called heart intelligence or soul intelligence. And what I do, Jared, no messing, I've disconnected from my egomania, and I just trust my heart now. And I've developed over the years a relationship. And if I've got any problems at all, right, I take all the problems and I put it into my heart. And I say, I don't know what to do here. Will you help me, please? And in that 10-minute session, I just leave it then, and I get on with my daily life. And what tends to happen then is I'll start to get coincidences and inspirations throughout the day. Now, you could see this as some sort of religious thing, and that's okay if you want. It doesn't matter. But I do not put labels on things now. I just work with the feelings. Let me just say something about the breathing. Some people might find it hard to get back to a really 6 breaths per minute because they might breathe quickly. So start off with, if you can do 12 breaths per minute, and then when you've got used to that, do 9 breaths per minute. And then when you've got used to that, do 6 breaths per minute. And it's the 6 breaths per minute that help the sympathetic and the parasympathetic components to start to work with one another in harmony.
And just question, like I was doing this, I was doing like 1, 2, I was tapping my fingers on my chest as I counted it's my head. Do you do that too, or do whatever you want?
You can do.
So you kind of tap like this just to get you going, and then you keep your hands at your heart, or do you just
yeah, because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get the feeling of the palms of my hands, and I'm trying to introduce a gentle, loving, nurturing energy, right? And I try and breathe in that loving feeling, collect any stress and tension that's in there, and on the out breath, just allow myself to deflate and send all that stress and tension, if you like, back to the universe. I know some of this stuff may cause people to balk because of the words.
No. I think the people that listen are spiritual as well. They kind of they get it. Like they're in touch with that side. You know, maybe some aren't though. I don't know. Hopefully this is new to some people too. But
yeah, well, it was completely. I had to get over myself really, and when I say that, I had to temporarily, metaphorically disconnect myself from my head. I had to decapitate myself, throw my head away, and just start listening to the intelligence that resides. And this is an ancient intelligence, right, that I didn't have a clue about. And my job is to help to put people back to their intelligence and help them to move forward and improve the quality of their life and stuff. And regarding eating and stuff like that, the balance comes naturally over time. That's what I found. You know, I've lost loads of weight over time, but it's been a gradual process. Am I still a meat eater? Yes, I do eat meat, but only very occasionally now, because over time, not because people have told me what I've got to do. If something feels right for me, then I go with my own intelligence then now. You know, so there's so much, mate, honestly. I mean, I'm looking forward to our next session.
Absolutely.
But, thanks very much for inviting me. I've enjoyed that.
Awesome. Okay, cool. Let's wrap it up for the day. Thanks so much, Joe, for coming on.
Pleasure, mate. And when you get the recording, if you let me know, I'll put it on my website and stuff like that.
Namaste. Thank you so much for listening. I am filled with gratitude and I am so appreciative. If you're appreciative as well for what you heard in this episode with us today, then please leave a 5-star review. It really helps get the word out for other people who need to experience an eating enlightenment for themselves. Finally, for further resources, visit eatingenlightenment.com for a free intro eating toolkit to stop binge and emotional eating. At eatingenlightenment.com, you'll also see a free quiz option that will give you a personal score on the emotional eating scale so that you know whether you're a stress eater, an emotional eater, compulsive eater, etc. And it also lists the 13 different criteria for binge eating disorder. So visit eatingenlightenment.com and namaste. Stay tuned for another episode coming soon.